Now we're going to be talking about, is it better to buy new or used? Not a huge topic, but I've got advice to really save you thousands. We've got Marie here, financial director at Toyota back a few years ago. So she knows all about the dangers of interest rates. And right now, used vehicles have high interest rates. And some Ford models, if you're looking at 2022 or 2023 Ford models, of course, 2024 at Ford does not occur in spring 23. That's crazy. But it's what the Japanese companies, the Asian companies generally do. They'll have the next year's model show up in spring or summer they're like 6 to 10 months early. I've seen one year, Mazda was so desperate, it was February, and they were coming out with the next year's model. That just reeks of desperation to me, even though I think some Mazdas are fantastic. You don't want to be desperate, even if you got a fantastic product. So the Ford 24s aren't out yet, but the 23s, you got some amazing interest rates. And the interest rates that are going to be amazing are the models that you see in inventory, such as the F-150, the Ford Edge, the Ford Mustang. So if you're interested in a Ford, shop your Fords. And if you're interested in any model on the market, I'd suggest and recommend, if you're going to be financing or leasing, go new, because you have the possibility to get a much better interest rate. Now, the GMC 1500 has a very good interest rate on it in our area right now. And I wouldn't, it's not a truck that I would say avoid. But to someone saying they're looking to get a truck in a year and a half, but they don't want to order a Maverick because currently interest rates are high on the Maverick. Yes, because it is not available. People complain if Ford over advertises the Maverick when there aren't any available right now. People complain. They say Ford shouldn't advertise it if it's not available right now. Well, one way to kind of calm down demand is to have that interest rate a little higher. But when your Maverick comes in a year and a half, you get to pick that new interest rate as well, though, as the new price, the price that it is that month. You have a chance to get that better interest rate if interest rates are better. But if you want a guaranteed interest rate that's better and you want to save thousands and you are going to be financing or leasing, buy a new vehicle, folks. But be careful. Make sure the interest rate isn't low because the vehicle is unwanted. Often unwanted models are because of reliability issues or reputation issues or just bad depreciation. Remember, manufacturers reduce interest rates as a form of incentive. So we need to ask, why is that incentive there? So for years, I've always asked, why are Ram 1500s 15 to 20% off? And I'd say that's the biggest one that bothers me on the market right now. You've got Ram 1500s all over the place. The classic model, the 20-year-old model, always seems to have 15 to 20% off in rebates, but now they've come out with a very low interest rebate. Dodge does not have its own financing department. When they had their near bankruptcy, they lost the ability to finance people. So they're not financing people on their own money. So when you get a low interest rate from Ram, from Jeep, Dodge, it's because the manufacturer is paying a bank to give a better interest rate. So it's kind of a fake low interest because one month they'll be 15 to 20% off. And then the next month, oh wow, they're advertising this incredible interest rate. It's still, it's still a truck that there's a lot on the market because they're having trouble selling it. So you need to ask yourself, is there a reason why the model is hard to sell? What's my resale value going to look like? Now, resale value is the issue with a lot of new vehicles. But if you get something hot and in demand, the Ford Maverick, yours, you bought it for $33,000, you can sell it right now for $43,000. That's $10,000 made on a new vehicle. And after putting on roughly, 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers, that's pretty sweet. So in the automobile industry, there's always two sides of it's a balancing act. If something's really hard to get your hands on, well, that's not fun. That's a low. That's a negative. Well, you're going to have something really positive on the other side. It's worth a fortune if you use it a bit and then just sell it. Use it 6 months, use it a year. First Bronco, sold it for more than what we paid. We had paid MSRP, second Bronco, paid MSRP. Some people have said, oh, only idiots. I had a comment, I loved it. Only idiots pay MSRP on new. Well, this idiot made money twice. Well, the second one cost $2,500 for 14 months. And at that price, at 100, you can't even get a used vehicle that ends up costing you 150 bucks. Because even if you buy a $3,000 vehicle and you try to keep it for 14 months, you're going to put a few $1,000s in repairs or maintenance into it, or it'll just be scrap at the end.
Yeah, I guess right now people who buy used car, it's more because it's available right now. When you buy a new, you need to wait. It's an order sometimes.
If it's popular. It's very popular.
At the same time, if you speak with people who always buy new cars, they will say, okay, my car is guaranteed. Nothing will break yet. So it depends on what you want. Do you want a car right now? Or are you able to wait, but you want a full guaranteed car that you won't have trouble to start?
Peace of mind. Great point on the new vehicle. You get peace of mind with a new vehicle now.
And with the lease, it's easy. If you don't love the car, you just give the key back at the end.
That's right. And if you are paying, if you have cash, if you got some cash on you, consider how much cash. Because if you can buy out entirely a vehicle, well, you don't want to have, if you're like, yeah, I've got cash on me, I've got $3,000, I can buy cash a used vehicle. Well, beware, a $3,000 used vehicle can be a whole lot of headaches. It might run for 2 weeks and then the engine might blow. And it could also last 4 years and you don't put a cent in for 4 years, but those cases are very rare because what used to be, you used to be able to find a good used vehicle for $2,000, $3,000. That was, 15, 20 years ago. Well, now that same type of vehicle is $10,000 to $15,000. So really important to keep that in mind. So Ford Video Guy says, I arrived at my resort. I'm going to get food and hang out with other speakers at the conference. Fantastic. Well, I'm happy that you'll be watching later. Thank you so much, Ford Video Guy. Now, I'd say if you're going to buy used and you're going to pay all cash, get something that's $15,000 or more. You will save interest, and that is definitely something to consider. But if you can get a good, reliable new vehicle with 2 or 3% interest, that's my number one recommendation. Finance it. If I have $100,000 sitting, well, here's an example. We've got some channel news, and we're going to be buying a vehicle, and we've got the choice: pay for it cash or pay 7% interest. And I'd rather pay 7% interest and invest my money, really truly hoping that the world doesn't nearly end with this potential digital currency situation, and hoping the stock market does rebound. If it doesn't, I'm going to feel pretty darn silly. But we'll have to wait and see. No one can predict the future. So let's get into some more photos here. So that's what's going on now. Talking about some important news, because we'll just conclude, if you're going to pay cash a used vehicle, get something that's worth it, $15,000 to $20,000. But there is a bit of a used vehicle crisis. There's less used vehicles on the market, and really where there are a lot of used vehicles that are missing from the market, it's those quality $5,000 to $15,000 vehicles. Really hard to get those quality $5,000 to $15,000 vehicles in large numbers. The prices on them have skyrocketed. What used to be a good vehicle at $3,000 now requires $10,000 to $15,000. So at that point, my advice would be probably the $20,000 to $30,000 range for an SUV is your safe range for something that's pretty reliable. Have it inspected. And if you buy from a dealer, if it's a major brand dealer, you're probably a little safer than buying it from just a little used car lot, because the little used car lots are generally picking things up at auction. Now, there's some very good little used car lots because they'll pick them up from auction, they'll fix them up, and then sell them. And there's others that are just going to give them a wash and wax outside, really wash it inside, make it smell good, get your emotions running, and get you out the door with that vehicle as fast as possible, because they know it's going to break, or they just didn't inspect it and they don't care because they just, they're there to flip a vehicle quick and make some money. So beware of that. That's my big advice. Be really, really wary of that. Now for a used vehicle, I think that used price range, if it's a truck, if it's an SUV, 20 to 30,000. You got some good ones at 15, but you got to be more careful. And under 15, you really start to play with fire, and maybe the vehicle will end up with a fire. For trucks, you got to be kind of in the 25,000 plus range. So I'd say a used truck, 2-3-year-old, 4, max 5-year-old truck is fine. Sometimes you come across that rare gem that's 10 or 15 years old and barely ever worked, but still was very well maintained. It happens, but you need to have those dealer, not invoices, but the dealer service receipts. You need to have all those service receipts, go through all the service receipts and make sure the vehicle was well maintained. And you could look over, use Google, find out what are the common problems with that model and look to see if they were fixed or not. So let's actually we'll go on to concluding. That concludes that episode. So if you buy used, get the vehicle inspected, check it out. I'd be more towards getting a 3 or 4-year-old used vehicle, but I'd be more inclined if I can pay a good, at least a quarter to a half of the price of the vehicle, or have my trade pay off half of the vehicle, so we avoid those high interest rates. Unless you have a low interest mortgage rate now and can pay it off using that interest on your mortgage. But remember, if in 2-3 years you're redoing your mortgage, it might be going up to 5 or 6 or 7%. So just beware of that.